There, and welcome back to J Painting. I am JJ, and for the third time, Michaela is here.
Hello.
So on today's Drunken Explain, we are drinking red wine. We're being a bit more grown up this time.
Red wine.
Yeah.
Goes to my head. Please cut that.
Oh, absolutely not. Anyway, so today, as you know, we're drinking red wine and we are discussing, or rather I'm telling Michaela, the story of the Gaunts Ghosts series, the Warhammer series, which in many respects is probably one of the big cornerstones of Black Library. So let's open this up to you. Michaela, do you know anything about the Gaunts Ghosts series?
No.
Nothing at all?
If I was to make an educated guess, I would guess they're about ghosts. Is there some kind of Primarch called Gaunt? Or some kind of dude called Gaunt, and like the ghosts work for Gaunt? Is he the OnlyFans guy? Is he one of the OnlyFans people?
No.
Like those guys, the Chaos Gods.
The Chaos Gods.
Is Gaunt a Chaos God?
He's not
Damn
a Chaos
it.
God. So we're 10,000 years after the Horus Heresy. The Emperor is still a cadaver on the Golden Throne, being kept alive purely through his NHS, purely through the National Health Service, keeping his life support switched on.
How do you have a national health service when it's an entire galaxy?
It's a joke.
Well then. Okay then. Oh, okay.
Yes. Indeed. So he's still alive, just about. All of the Primarchs are now either missing, dead, or insane. And the galaxy at large, or the Imperium at least, is being run by humans for humans. So what happens is the forces of chaos are still around. They're still around and proud. And obviously they can infect regular humans as much as they can influence Space Marines. So a big bunch of regular humans rose up in the name of chaos and effectively cut a big chunk of the Sabbath Worlds off from the Imperium. And the Sabbath Worlds Crusade is the setting of the Gaunts Ghost series. So what happened is this guy called Slado started the whole thing off by saying to the High Lords of Terror, who now run the show, guys, the Sabbath Worlds, they've seceded from the Imperium and they're not paying their rent. Maybe we should go collect on our missing income. And they say, good idea, Slado, let's action that.
Slado as in rhymes with Play-Doh.
Yes.
They should make Play-Doh that is Slado themed. It's like a little collaboration.
Slado Play-Doh.
Warhammer Play-Doh.
Play-Doh. My Patreon is below. Anyway. But yes, so Slado Play-Doh does that. And he gets this massive force of humans, Space Marines, all the various different branches of the Imperium's military forces, and they launch a massive attack on the Sabbath Worlds. Now, in the midst of this is a young guy called Ibram Gaunt. His first name is Ibram, or Ibram, depending on the pronunciation. That's one thing. Back to Slado Play-Doh. So Ibram Gaunt is alongside Slado, and he's under a chap called Oktar for a little while, so he's learning the ropes of being a commissar. And in this incredibly authoritarian and totalitarian society, Ibram, or Ibram, his role is as a commissar. He was taught to basically be a disciplinary officer in the ranks of the Imperium. So his job and his role in this society is to take tens of thousands of young men and women who are basically had a gun put in their hands from a young age and said, you will fight and you will die for the Imperium. You will not run away. You will not take one step backwards. If we tell you to advance, you will keep advancing even if you are blown to pieces. But this is the thing about...
No, that's bullshit.
It is.
I'd be like, no, fuck you.
And then they just execute you on the spot.
No, I'd just kill myself.
A lot of people do. Now, but there's a difference between Ibram Gaunt and most other people like this, is that Ibram Gaunt isn't from the mould of throw their lives away until there's no more lives to throw. Ibram's more of the school of... Tactics, be a good leader, read the situation, use them to the best value that you can.
See, this is the thing, because it's like, it's all very well being like, throw the bodies at the situation, but if you use tactics, you can save some of those bodies to fight another day.
Exactly. And that's what Ibram does, but there's a lot of them who just simply don't. But the good thing about Ibram is that his superiors recognise this, but you got to remember that this way of thinking isn't actually that popular in the Imperium for some reason. And a lot of the idea is thinking that, keep the masses prepared to fight at all times, and we can always keep this thing rolling over and ticking over.
Yeah, well, I guess if you want to, you can have like what is it, military service, when like everyone has to do their time.
Oh, you do? That's still a thing. There's still some bright sparks amongst this, Ibram Gaunt being one of them. So he is of the school of, let's actually treat people with some respect, with something like their lives are worth something. Mm-hmm. So there's 10 years worth of this fighting starting off with, and it comes to a head on a planet called Bolhart, and this is where we get to the ghosts bit. So what happens is Gaunt has been fighting alongside Slader and a bunch of other people. He's now a full-blown commissar, he's learned his role, he's also a good leader, he's very charismatic, he's a real political animal. And Slader gets wounded on Balhot, and on Slader's deathbed, he promises Gaunt that the day you conquer a planet on your own volition, that planet is you will have settling rights of that planet, basically. So it is old school colonialism 101, absolutely. But at the same time, that's a reward for a prominent officer in this society.
Okay.
And whatever regiment you raise, that will be their new homeworld, effectively. So that's just how it works. With the rank of Colonel Commissar now. So he has the dual role of being a commissioned officer in the army, so he gives orders, he's in charge of the regiment's administrative and combat doctrines, and he's also a commissar, so he has his duty as a disciplinary officer as well. But what Gaunt also then finds himself up against is the new War Master called Makaroth, who is quite a light figure for most of the series. We don't really see him at all for most of the books, actually. But Makaroth and Slader had very different ways of looking at things. Slader was all about lead from the front, be where the men are at, be a presence that everyone can get behind. Makaroth was more cerebral. He's more about strategy, he's more about tactics and logistics and thinking things through and like grand strategy on a massive scale.
Uh-huh.
So are you with me so far on everything?
Slader is a dude.
Yeah.
Alright, Ibram is also another dude. Slader is like, mate, want a crusade.
Yep.
Ibram is like, hey, I'm a corsair.
Commissar. He's not a pirate.
I'm a commissar, so I'm gonna like use strategy and shit, and I'm good at my job, so now I've got these other jobs, and now I'm a commander or a colonel.
Colonel Commissar.
Colonel Commissar.
Yes.
Oh no, Slater's dead. Cerebral guy is in charge.
But yes, that is where we're at to now. So what happens is Gaunt is asked to raise a new set of regiments for the Sabbath Worlds Crusade from the planet called Tanith. That's a planet which has been part of the Imperium, stayed loyal. Forest planet. But no. Imagine a planet of redwood forests. And their whole thing is, stealth and sneaking and being very quiet and moving quick, like hence the name, ghosts.
Oh, so they're not real ghosts?
No, not real
ghosts. I wanted real ghosts.
No.
I wanted, Balrog ghosts.
So, what happens is he's given this planet, so he goes to Tanith, and with the express intention of raising these new regiments, and there were going to be 3 of them. So he gets there, and he's going, okay, let's start raising up these guys. And what happens is, oh no, a fleet of Chaos ships manages to slip through all of the various blockades and attacks Tanith. What a shame! So he's got a choice. He can either evacuate the troops he's got and save as many as he can to fight for the Imperium and leave Tanith, or leave these guys in a last stand to, die heroically for their planet. Obviously, he chooses the former. This is where we get the name Ghosts from. So Tanith is destroyed. The planet itself is largely wiped out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's wiped out. So, and obviously all these guys. So, imagine being raised. You're going off to fight in a war. So you may or may not feel particularly jazzed about that. And what happens, obviously, is this guy who you've never met, you don't know him. He says, "All right, you can't say to defend your families. You can't protect your land. You can't, die. You can't go and find your loved ones. You just have to leave, and we're all leaving right now." So. It's quite a divisive topic amongst the ghosts themselves, and they become known as Gaunt's ghosts because they have no homeworld, they have no planet to call their own, they are effectively...
Wait, so they don't even try and help the civilians?
No.
Now you see, that's a dick move.
Yeah.
That's not very nice.
No, it's not.
So wait, so are some of the ghost people in his regiment? So we went to this planet
His
to be like,
regiment
hey,
is the ghosts.
long-haired tattooed people, let's do this.
Yes.
Oh no, the bad guys are coming. I'm gonna get the feck out of Dodge. But what about little Timmy? Little Timmy's gonna die.
Yep.
Get going.
Well, they do save one little Timmy, but his name's Milo, and they kind of because he can play the bagpipes, so they save him.
So if you just happen to have bagpipe lessons at school, you're fine. What about little Tabitha? What if she can play the bagpipes? Is she allowed to be saved?
No.
What about Hortense? She can play the flute.
So these first books were written in 1996, so this was still very much the idea of a man's man world of manly men fighting all the man wars.
Oh, 1996.
Yes. So there's 3,500 members of the Tanith Regiment, and there was originally meant to be 3 Tanith regiments, but now there's only 1, so they're known as the Tanith First and Only, also known as Gaunt's Ghosts, because they have no home, no planet. They are very much just ghosts drifting from one war zone to another until they are eventually all wiped out and all dead. It is very sad. And also it's a bit of eyes like Colm Corbeck. I think Gaunt's quite a stand-up guy. You know, he might be quite a straight-laced hard man, but you know, he's fair and he's honest. And so guys like him, like Arl and Rawn, who hate him with a passion to begin with, and Mert and Merrin, all the rest of that, who really don't like Gaunt at all. And obviously they disagree with Gaunt for making them leave their families, and they almost vow to kill him if they ever get the chance to, because he was the man who, you know, condemned them to wandering the galaxy for a Imperium that they don't really care about and doesn't really care about them. You with me so far?
I am.
Cool, good. So obviously Gaunt's going from one battlefront to another battlefront, from one warzone to another, and he's not using the ghosts as cannon fodder or as a meat shield. He is using them for the things they're good at, which is stealth, which is guerrilla missions, which is infiltration. Massive guy, is big and hench. He's called Try Again Bragg, because he's one of the biggest and strongest guys in the regiment, but he's...
So when people try to kill him, they've got to try again?
No, because he's terrible at shooting, so every time he shoots he misses and they say, "Try again, Bragg." Yeah.
I thought it was going to be something way more awesome, just like every time they try and kill me, they're going to try again because I'm that hench.
No, he's like...
But no, he's just a shit shot.
He's a shit shot, and he's so bad at shooting that his nickname is Try Again Bragg. Orn is a very good leader as well, but unfortunately he wants Gaunt dead, so that makes things a little bit awkward at the ice cream social after every battle. There's this quite colourful group of characters that do develop over the books, and then there's external forces as well. So the Sabbath Worlds Crusade itself becomes a bit of a political arena in certain ways. So there are those who disagree that Makaroth should have been made War Master to begin with. So there's another guy whose name is Dravia, I think, it's only in the first book, who decides to attempt to subvert Makaroth's authority by effectively finding some old machines that were around from before the time of humanity that he believes he can reanimate and make his to go and fight for him and eventually remove Makaroth. Gaunt has to basically stop that from happening with absolutely no one finding out, so he has to go on a stealth mission within a mission to stop the forces of chaos from taking these machines, but also stopping people who are ostensibly on his own side from taking these machines as well. And that leads to the death of quite a few more ghosts, so the numbers are dropping off. And you have to remember that with every book that goes past, the number of ghosts drops down and down and down and down, which is very unfortunate and very sad. And
all they had to do was save some of the wives. Not in a women are just baby making machines kind of thing, but like if they'd just been right, okay, who's in the vicinity? Mabel, Ruth, Guinevere, and Svetlana. Gather them up.
And that would have been fine just to repopulate Tanith later on.
I mean, it wouldn't have been fine, because, you know, that's a lot to ask of a uterus, but...
Yeah, I'll say.
But you're not looking at the destruction of an entire race of people.
Yeah. But yeah, fighting back and forth, and they come to a really important one, which is called Vergast. So they go to a place called Vervenhive, which is basically a mega city. Mm-hmm. They're called hive cities for some reason, because they're built to be really tall. Mm-hmm. So like their tallest buildings practically go into the stratosphere. So it goes to one called Vervenhive, which is really big, and it's attacked by another place called Pharaozoica, which is another hive city. And the arch enemy, as they're known in this book, Chaos, infects every citizen of the hive, so every man, woman, and child. They all basically go and attack the city, and Gaunt goes, so they're defending the city, and they're defending it. Gaunt gets wounded, he's holed up in hospital, and this is kind of an important point, because what happens at the end of this point is that Gaunt himself is wounded, so there's a bit of a shift in the ghosts. They go from all being very divided over him, saying, well, he took a bullet for us, basically, so he's alright. And a few of them start to come round to thinking he's okay, and a few of them are still stubbornly thinking, no, he's a dickhead, we've got to kill him. But they don't. They're begrudgingly going, okay, maybe he's legit, even if we don't agree with him. But also it's to the point where we finally get some women into the show as well. So, at long last, there are some... So, the thing about Vervenhive is it was utterly demolished in this campaign, and a lot of people died, and the actual city itself was almost completely wiped out. So, a lot of the people who were fighting in the city itself joined the Tanith first. they joined the Tanith Regiment because a lot of them were formed into conscription gangs. A lot of them were fighting as guerrilla fighters or as irregulars, and they found themselves fighting alongside the Tanith, and they didn't really have homes to go back to.
So they were just like, hey, you guys, you got sick tattoos and long hair.
Exactly. Turns out you're a bit tasty in a fight, so off we go. So that's where we pick up characters like...
You shouldn't be eating your fellow your fellow soldiers.
It's a figure of speech.
Is it though?
So this is where we pick up some new characters such as Tona Crid, who's the first woman, she's really cool, and Anna Kurth, who is a doctor who joins the regiment as well, and then others like Dallin and Yonsi Kalia, later Crid, and then Gol Kalia, who's another guy, and Aegon Sorik, who was a miner, as well as...
is this like a miner as in a child?
As in a guy down the mines. Down
okay.
the mines, yeah. And then Bandower, who was like a captain of the guard for the Hive beforehand. So quite a mixed cast overall, but they're really cool. And then there's Nessa as well, who's also like the sniper lady, and she's pretty cool.
Listen, Nessa. Yes,
yeah.
Nessa. Is she in a wheelchair?
No, she's not.
Is she a psychopath?
No, yeah.
Love that diversity.
Mine, Dan Abbott lives in Kent, and I think it.
Kent is hella racist and backward.
But
I'm from Kent, so I can say that.
But this was the point.
If you're not from Kent, stay out of it.
And this was the phase of the Crusade, so the Sabbath Wars Crusade is still going on, and it's back and forth, and obviously...
Is the Merethe dude, the dude who took over from Play-Doh, is he still in charge?
Macaroth is still alive, yes,
cool.
That's in charge, yeah. So, and then obviously we also pick up people like Elijah Ku as well, who we'll get to in a minute as well.
Elijah Ku.
Yeah. So obviously when they pick up all these new guys, some of them are, hivers. They're very different walks of life. So when all the first lot of Tanith were born into the army, some of them were a bit more closely screened than others, shall we say. So from the Tanith side of things, they were all prepared to fight.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of these guys were just admitted because by this point the Tanith regiment itself was quite depleted.
So they're just like, we need people.
We need bodies, yes.
Can you hold a gun?
Yeah.
Then there you go.
And obviously they were all taught in like the same things of like stealth and stalking and hunting and tactics. Yeah, exactly. Like, sorry, to the camera. Stealth. Anyway, so.
Please cut that.
Oh, absolutely not. So the other thing to remember is that the Sabbath Worlds are called the Sabbath Worlds because they were initially, they were helped, given their identity, by someone called Saint Sabbat. So who is basically someone who has a connection to the Emperor. That's what saints are conceived to be. And in the next book, they go to her tomb world, which is called Hagia, and their mission there is to, get the body and the remains of the saint off world. The Gaunts, the ghosts end up not having to do that because the Chaos fleet that's on the way to do that gets blown off course, so they're all right. But this is where we start to see the Verven Hivers start to integrate more with the Tanith side of things. So some of them start to integrate really, really well. So you've got guys like Crid, who's quite a good leader, so she starts moving up the ranks, as does Gol Kalir and Aegon Sorik. And then there's others like Elijah Ku, who's a bit suspicious and no one really trusts him that much. But then there's the friction, obviously, because you've got the Tanith, and then you've got the Verven Hivers. So there's it's two very different cultures. So you've got the people who grew up with forests, and people who grew up living in the inner city. Mm-hmm. So it's quite different. It's quite a clash of cultures within the regiment itself. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's the actually addressed issue in the books of women being in the regiment, because the Tanith didn't have that at all. In their culture, women didn't fight. But in Verven Hive society, they do. So there is a bit of that as well. So yeah, there's a bit more.
But it's also like, if they let the women fight, maybe they could have got them off world.
That is true. That is 100% true. That is 100% true.
See, when you subjugate women, all the women die. That's really depressing. Someone's at the door.
And true. But that is the fact. That's what happens. So when we then get to the following books, such as the Guns of Tanith and Straight Silver, which are the next two books, that's when we discover the darker side of some of these things. So Elijah Ku, who we mentioned earlier, is a bit of a sadist, and he does actually do a very bad thing, which I don't want to say on the internet.
Can you whisper it to me?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's a sociopath.
Please tell me they kill him.
We'll get to that in a second.
Please tell me they kill him.
Elijah Ku does.
If you know what he does.
Yeah. So Elijah Ku does a bad thing, and he's nearly caught by Bragg. You remember Try Again Bragg?
Yeah. He's nearly caught by...
Yeah.
Well, Try Again Bragg needs to try again and catch him.
So they're on this other planet that I can't remember. It's like called Cardinal or something like that. Anyway, so Try Again Bragg and he catches him, and what happens is this the woman who it happens to, her kid sees what happens, and he's asked to identify the person, but he doesn't think it's Ku, he thinks it's Kathran. But Bragg, who saw what happened, knows that Ku was also stealing from the bodies. So this is why I mentioned this point, because it is quite important. So he then goes to the internal affairs, basically, or the commissariat, or the police, the guard.
He goes to HR.
But yeah, he goes to HR and says, search this guy and you'll find this, and that's how you know he did it, because he dropped a coin, basically, at the scene of the crime. And Ku did steal the coins, and he did do it, and Bragg nearly caught him. But then a bit of a twist happens, where, because they've only just recently saved this planet, or saved this place from the bad guys, and these are all coins from the bad guys, so there are still some bad guys in the place, in the station, so some Chaos Forces who are disguised as Tanith regiments. So on that technicality, Ku gets off, but Ku knows that Bragg dobbed him in. So when they go on to the next big advance, a couple of things happen. Firstly...
Oh, please try again, Bragg doesn't die, does he?
So...
No! Try again, Bragg! He needed to try again!
He did.
No! Elijah Ku is a dick.
Yes, he was. He's called Elijah Fethin Ku for a reason. So the fallout from that is the next couple of books themselves are a bit like The Morning After Night Before, so there is stuff going on and the books themselves are still quite good. But on the surface everything's fine, because as far as everyone's concerned, Bragg just died during the battle and that's it. And then as times go by, there are other things happen. So this regiment's also quite famous for its scouts and its scouting. So the guy McCall, who I mentioned earlier, he's the leader of the scouts, so he trains all the new scouts. Ku is considered for the scouts, but then they decide against it.
Because he's a dick.
Well, so whilst all this is going on, news comes in that Saint Sabbat has been reborn, basically. So someone is claiming to be the saint, or the saint reincarnated.
Okay.
So they go to the planet where this has ostensibly happened. And Gaunts and all his officers are a bit sceptical, going, I don't know if this is actually the person or not, it doesn't really seem legit. And they're thinking they've just been sending to die, basically, to like, it seems like they're thinking it's a PR stunt, it's propaganda, we are literally just here to die to protect someone who they think is the saint, or because the forces of chaos will now all come here purely so that we can distract them for long enough for the War Master to win on another planet somewhere else. And they all go, okay, alright, we'll do our jobs, as we always do. So are you with me so far and everything?
I just still can't get over Try Again Bragg dying. He seemed legit, you know?
Yeah. So what happens following that is they're on this planet with the saint, and in the lore of, or in the Apocrypha, in whatever gospel there is, the saint suffers 9 wounds that kill her. So the bad guys, who are now under command of someone called Urlok Gwar, that's his name, Gwar, G-A-U-R, I know. And he's in charge of this new organisation called the Blood Pact, who are different, because all the enemies they've been fighting up to this point are like cultists. So they're an unchained, frenzied mob. Some of them are defected Imperial Guard, but these guys are legit. They're like a trained, professional army, just fighting for chaos. And this is a first for them, because up to now they haven't had to deal with that. It's mostly just been renegades and cultists.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no.
Oh no.
Exactly. So that's what they're having to fight now. And so it's a new professional army they've been fighting for a little while. So Gwar has sent 9 assassins, symbolic of the 9 wounds that the saint suffered. Whilst they're all very sceptical as to whether or not this is actually the saint, a couple of the assassins strike and the forces of chaos attack. So McVenna, who I mentioned earlier, gets wounded,
Oh, okay.
as does Gol Kalia, who is brain damaged but he's still able to fight, basically.
Okay.
If he's even if he is like learning difficulties at this point, like he's only able to like really basic stuff.
Okay.
He takes McVenna and 1 or 2 other wounded people to the saint, and she heals them.
All of them?
All of them.
Oh!
So McVenna's injuries healed because he's like got like really bad infections in his wound. Gol Kalia's like his head and his cerebral cortex is repaired. So
Can they bring back Try Again Bragg?
he's already dead.
Oh.
The Gaunts goes to Tanith first, basically get reassigned as the saint's personal bodyguard. They are her protectorates, basically. They are looking after her. So they send in the 9 assassins.
Yeah.
So one of them is an alien assassin, who's basically good with knives. Another ones are like flying aliens that have shotguns, which are just the worst. And that's how Corbeck got wounded last time around, because he got shot by them on the back of the head. And basically imagine a shotgun that shoots razor blades.
No.
Yeah. you don't want to get hit by that. And then there's also Psyker, so this guy called Patterson, who does appear in one of the other books, and he's basically got like these two twin Psykers, or like psychic children, who can basically manipulate people's minds and force them to do things against their will, basically. He's a bit of a nasty guy. So these guys will go in. So McCall kills the guy who's good with knives. The Loxartle, the shotgun, razor blade guys, they all get shot dead by Tanith, thankfully. And then, whilst all this is going on, the psychic children, they're trying to find someone to possess. And Aegon Sorek, who I mentioned earlier, turns out he is also a psyker. So he has the same abilities as them. Oh. But the thing about him is when you're born with psychic abilities, you need to be registered to the Imperium. So the Imperium at large needs to know this, and you get taken away into the Black Ships. It's a really bad time for you, basically, because you can get tortured, do all sorts of terrible things.
But surely they want to be like, hey,
you'd think that unsecured gas hose, basically.
But surely, if the humans would be like, okay, there's a psychic child, let's let the Space Marines know, so the Space Marines can look after them and make them a useful member of society. As stupid as Horus was, at least they all knew what they were doing. Like, how can you just be like, we're just going to take this gifted child and torture them for ages?
Funny that, isn't it?
Stupid.
It is.
Backwards.
What happens is Sorek is trying to warn them, and they figure out that there's something up with him, so he gets put in a cell by Meryn, who is Rawn's protege, but Meryn's going off the deep end a little bit now because he's a little bit sadistic and a bit power crazy. And the other problem at this point now is that just leaves Patterson, and Sorek figures out what's happening because he's a psyker, and he discovers that Ku killed Bragg and did the thing to the woman as well. And
so he possesses him and makes him go crazy?
No, the kids possess Ku.
Okay.
But Sorek just about manages to warn Gaunt in time, but Ku's already disappeared from his position, no one knows where he is. And Gaunt, Korbeck and a few of the ghosts are all with the Saint trying to get her out of the city. Mm-hmm. And then Ku shows up and starts shooting. And so they know what's going on. So Gaunt gets winged. The Saint they think's been hit, but it's just on the armor, so she's okay. And then Ku's head explodes because Larkin shot her dead. But
shot her dead.
Shot him dead. Sorry, shot Ku dead.
Okay, right.
Unfortunately, Ku got one more shot off, which took out Korbeck. Korbeck in the first 6 books or so is a absolute rock of a character.
Oh. So wait, was he the guy who got brain damaged?
No, that was Gol Kalia.
So which one was Korbeck again?
Korbeck was the one from the very beginning who was saying that Gaunt seemed like a legit dude.
What, the second in command?
Yeah.
Oh no, not him!
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, so he's dead, unfortunately.
Why do all the good guys have to die?
I know, right? Well, it's because it's the story, isn't it? Not everyone can live, unfortunately.
Yeah, they can. They can all be Mary Sues.
Not in this series, they can't.
Ugh.
Not in this series. They really can't in this series. That brings us to the end of part 1 of Drunken Explain of Gaunt's Ghosts.
There's more?
There is more. And the reason I'm doing for this one is because unlike the Horus Heresy, where you can sum up in all the big events, with the Gaunt's Ghost books, they're a bit more specific to the novels and there's a lot more going on. So it only seems right and fair that we give it as much time as we are due. But it's next time where we get to the Lost and the Victory omnibuses. So far we've had the Founding and we've had the Saint. I should have said at the beginning, the Founding and the Saint have been the 2 omnibuses we've covered so far.
Cool.
And we'll get on to up to the current day of where the Horus...
that was the other book, dear.
Yeah. And you guys at home, let me know what you think of Gaunt's Ghosts, and if there's any important things that I've missed out that need to be in this video or that are worth mentioning, let us know in the comments below. And whilst you're down there, like, subscribe, all that good fun YouTube shilly stuff that I do. I post my videos on Fridays and a day in the week, and I think this is around about the year-ish anniversary of getting on YouTube, which Michaela I have to thank for getting me on this platform to begin with. So you seeing me with the like and subscribe buttons around, it's partly thanks to her to begin with anyway. So support her channel by subscribing to her, watching her content as well, and mine, and liking, and commenting, and making YouTube a better place for everyone. Thank you all very, very much for watching. Bye, have a lovely day, and thank you.
Bye!
So this guy up in the corner here, that's Try Again Brag.
Oh, he looks as awesome as I thought. Oh, look at him with his gun he can't aim. Love it. Love to see it.
That's Stealthy McCall.
Okay.
That's Rawn, the guy that doesn't like Gaunts.
Okay. Why are their arms so big? No one's arms are that big.
That's Gaunt himself, obviously.
Oh, Gaunt doesn't look as awesome as I thought he did.
No?
He looks a bit like a... He looks like if Einstein, like, got really old, had sex with a wizard, then that wizard had sex with a Nazi, and then their love child is that.
Okay.